Welcome, everybody. My name is Kelsey Doom. I am the president and CEO at the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce. I am here to assist in putting on our last virtual legislative forum. These are hosted by the Public Affairs Committee of the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce. We have a couple sponsors to introduce. First off, we have CrossFit Brookings and Willard Chiropractic. We're both forum sponsors for this, and our capital sponsor was Brookings Economic Development Corporation. And so I'm going to introduce Sarah Hoagie, who is our workforce director here in Brookings, to give us a little update on how Brookings Economic Development is doing and what they have going on. So Sarah, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks for that introduction, Kelsey. And thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited to share a little bit of information about what we've been working on recently. For those that don't know me, I started the role as Workforce Development Director in 2020, and we've been busy ever since. So part of our workforce development program really focuses on creating awareness of opportunities in our area, as well as recruitment and retention strategies. So in other words, we're super intentional with the work that we do because we want to position Brookings County as the best place to live, work, and play. And so with that, I wanted to do a little plug for an upcoming job fair that we have that is being hosted on March 3rd and March 17th. So whether you are joining us as an employer or a job seeker, I would encourage you to check that out. I can send the information via chat. And then also, if you would like to stay up to date on some of these recent or upcoming events, as well as some of the jobs that are being posted, I would encourage you to follow Jobs in Brookings Facebook page, and then also check out www.jobsinbrookings.com. We are constantly updating things. It's hiring season, and so it's a really great resource to utilize and start getting connected to employment opportunities. So thanks for having me. I look forward to this session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. So without further ado, we're going to get into it with our District 4 and 7 legislators. To moderate today's panel, we have Don Norton, who's the CEO of the South Dakota Ag and Rural Leadership Program. This is an 18-month program, leadership development program, which if you're not familiar with it, you should probably go check it out. It's a very cool experience. It's an international, they go all over the world with their programming. Don actually has a great story. We could probably do a human interest piece on Don alone. I love his bio. So he has taught more than 20 communication courses at the college and university level, and he's received 4 Associated Press News Awards for broadcast journalism. He's got a Master of Arts degree in communication from Western Illinois and is certified in nonprofit management. He and his wife, Kay, reside here in Brookings, and we are so happy to have him as a resource to assist us with things like that. So, Don, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Kelsey. And thank you, Sarah, for your sponsorship. This goes to show you live long enough, you get a long resume, I guess. Hey, welcome, everybody. Great to have District 4 and District 7 legislators here with us today. We're going to start just a quick round the horn, as they say. We're going to introduce everybody. What I'd like to do is start with District 4 and start with Senator Wiik, and we'll go to the representatives. Please give us your name, the town that you're from, and then one positive word about what has guided you through this legislative session so far. Senator Wiik.
Well, thank you, Don. Good morning, and thanks to all the sponsors and to the Chamber for having us this morning. My name is John Wiik. I live in Big Stone City, South Dakota, and the word I've been using is on. We're on schedule, we're on task, and we are getting everything done on time.
Oh, very good. Representative Deutsch.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. Thank you for the Chamber and the sponsors for supporting us and bringing this forward. I live in rural Florence, which is northwest of Watertown, out in the country. The word I would use is germ-free. I have been very diligent about trying to remain germ-free.
Germ-free, one word, hyphenated in the middle. Very good. Representative John Mills.
Good morning, and thanks to the Chamber for hosting this, and to Mr. Norton for being our moderator. I also serve District 4. I live out in Brookings County, south or near the town of Volga, and my word this session would be cooperation. I think we're seeing quite a bit of it, actually, and I'm pleased about that.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right, let's go to the legislators from District 7, starting with Senator B.J. Smith.
B.J. Smith, Brookings, the word is frenzy.
Okay, very good. Senator Smith last week, I think, said something in 20 seconds, and we were all very impressed, but this certainly beats that. So good to see you again this morning, Senator. And Larry Tidemann, Representative Tidemann. I think he may have fallen off the line here. Let's go to Tim Reed.
Good morning, everyone. Tim Reed from Brookings, and I guess my word would be future. I think we're really going to be talking about the future of South Dakota quite a bit here in the next couple of weeks.
Very good. Several people have emailed questions in, and I'm going to dig into those topics right away. The first one was Senate Bill 177. Seems to be top of mind for many, many people. It's regarding parental choice and compulsory school attendance. Technically, it would make it very easy to homeschool. Specifically, and I'm quoting here from, I think this is from the Kelloland website, the legislation would repeal the requirement that parents annually notify school districts that students won't be attending, and require notices only the first year that students won't attend, and when any changes occur. Standardized tests would no longer be required in the 4th, 8th, and 11th grades for students, and truancy would depend on the county's state's attorney. We've had several people call in comments on this, and it's interesting because you can hear their point of view by the way they phrase their comments. You know, do you support a parent's right to choose the best education for their children? Would be one of the comments that's come in. So where are we on this? Let's start with our senators. It was a 21-14 vote in the Senate. That's pretty close, but both of our senators were in favor of it. Let's start with Senator Smith, could we?
Thank you. It's interesting. This is the first question last week, too, before the vote. And, first I want to say this. The one criticism that we've heard about the test is oftentimes teachers teach to the test. And that doesn't necessarily make them broader in terms of their knowledge. It's simply they know the test, okay? And so there's questions about that. You know, here's the deal. I received a lot of comments from the school district, and rightfully so, because they're and all of them are trying to do right by the kids. And so sometimes as a legislator, you have to you take a different view of things. And as much as I appreciated all the comments locally, I voted to do what's with the family, what they think would be best for the child. You know, I asked the question in committee and didn't get an answer. I said, how many kids fall off the grid? You know, how many kids are lost? And there is no answer to that. And there's speculation. And so, you know, the other thing I realize is that things aren't permanent. If this doesn't work, if there seems to be a failure, we'll come back and revisit the subject. But it was a tough vote. You know, it's a tough vote. One of the toughest votes I'll ever take. So anyway, on to Senator Wiik.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, VJ. Thanks, Don. I voted for Senate Bill 177. There's a lot of reasons for that for me. Mainly, it's the parents that are responsible for their children. No matter how much money we invest in education, no matter how many buildings we build, no matter what we do, it is the parents who are the final decision on the educational choices for their children. And whether they choose to educate them at home or educate them in our tremendous public school systems, that needs to be a free and equal, equitable choice across all platforms. And that's the reason I went with my vote on 177. And I honestly believe it's going to help school enrollment down the road. When you allow children to participate, you know, if you're a homeschooling parent and you've always wanted your kid to try playing in a band, well, a band of however many kids you have is not a band. If you can get them into a school and get them associating with people, then all of a sudden it's like, you know, I never was really good at Algebra 2. Maybe we could just pop them in for a class or two. And I believe our schools are that solid that if we put everything on an equitable footing where people can pick and choose what they want, we're going to end up with more participation in the long run. So to me, it's fairness, it's a complete equitability, and I don't even know if that's a word. Is that a word, Senator Smith?
It is today. It is today.
Okay. But you know, that's what it's about for me. It's just a complete level playing field for the educational options for our kids.
Let's go to the representatives, because actually the bill is now going to the representatives. Let's start with District 4. Mr. Deutsch, will you vote in favor of this bill?
Well, that's a good question. You know, we haven't had it come to us yet. So I'm sure, like every other legislator that wants to do a good job, you want to listen to both sides. And many times during arguments on the floor or in committee, I changed my mind several times. That being said, I'm a former public school board member, 3 terms on the Watertown School Board. Prior to that, I was a school board member at Immaculate Conception School, elementary school in Watertown. So I've got a lot of background. I like the ability for parents to make choices, and I want to listen to both sides of this. I think the bill does bring equity. We all still have to pay for public schools, whether we send children or not. You and I, Don, pay for public schools, even though we may not have children. I don't know your children, how old they are, Don, but mine are gone, and I'm still paying and will pay. And the people that send their children to public schools, private schools, or home schools all pay. So there's that component of it as well. I want to listen to the debate and make a decision. Thank you.
Representative Mills.
Thank you. Obviously, there's an advantage when the bills start in the Senate. We get the opportunity to listen to more of the committee testimony and to look at how people voted. I have not had a chance yet to listen to that before I have the opportunity to hear it in the House, but I plan to do so. This is a bill I'm likely to support. I too believe in empowering parents with the choice. And I also think, like Senator Wiik said, that I really believe the schools in the long run will benefit. And I believe what Senator Smith said is true as well, that if there's something wrong with this, it can be changed next year. So I'm likely to support it. Thank you.
Very good. Let's jump over to District 7. Tim Reed, how are you sitting on the Senate Bill 177?
Thank you, Don. And, it has been stated that it is coming over to the House. We've gotten to listen to quite a bit of the testimony. I'm not totally decided yet, but I do agree with the parents' choice. I think it's up to them to make sure that their kids, do get an education. Now, I really respect the public schools, because that's what they're there for. They want to make sure that it's all kids get educated. And I love that they're there with that. And I think that's important to take into consideration as they're taking a look at this. I do have a concern with the portion about activities. I think school systems have worked with homeschool parents to, if they want their kid to be involved, what they expect. This just lays it out that they have to be. Well, at that point, then I do believe there should be some more extra funds that flow, because those extracurricular activities are not free. Now, so I'm not saying that that a homeschool family needs to pay for it. What I'm saying is we need to increase and give them. And I don't know if it's a 0.1 of a student, a 0.2 of a student. I just think some more money should flow if they do allow the students to participate in extracurricular activities.
And Representative Tidemann.
Thank you, Don. And I just want to answer the first question. Respect is the word that I wanted to share with the folks. Number one, we're all a citizen legislator group, and I want to respect each and every person that comes out there because they bring different strengths. Now, to answer the question on the Senate Bill 177, I do have some concerns about some of the things. I think originally it was in place that if you took one course there, you could participate in other activities. I remember Representative Bruner's daughter was a fantastic violinist, and she wanted to be able to be in the concert choir and play the violin. Well, if she took one course at the school, she could do it. I think we have club sports through the local communities. Those children that play in those club sports have to also meet all of the demands of the Activities Association and that are in place in the school. I think those things in place will help. And I do believe in people's choice. But another number of folks that ended up with homeschooling this past year ago didn't really enjoy being the teacher all day long, as well as being mom and dad.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit about that, Representative Tidemann, because you spent a portion of, I think most of this past week attending virtually in the legislature. How'd that go for you?
Well, it's not the same as being there, I will say that, but I had to do the right thing because I had close contact with 2 people that tested positive. And I wanted to make sure that I could get my shot, and you don't want to be exposed to it and then tell them, nope, I was exposed and so I can't get my shot. It's not the same as being there by any means at all, but we could get it done. And so the technology worked. But just like as I was trying to hit the mic earlier, an email came in and I hit it just as that was there. And the next thing you knew, I was in my emails. So sometimes technology doesn't work like you want it.
You can tell from our question and answers that people are sending in questions about 177, stating that the legislature is really sending mixed signals here. They at first said compulsory 18-year-old, you have to attend all the way through 18 years old. We're trying to build a workforce based on some of the job skills that you would actually learn in a high school that you may not learn at home. We're doing a lot to get people into technical schools or technical trades, and yet now we're not going to require them to attend school. Last minute thoughts on 177. It certainly has generated a lot of questions this past week. Anybody? Fred?
I think all those things you mentioned, Don, can be accomplished at home. I think, that's not to take away from parents' ability to work toward those ends. So I don't see that as a significant disparity myself.
Very good. I did want to touch on that because some people have called that in. Speaking of education, what's the status of the $900,000 civics allocation? Making sure people that we have curriculum to address civics and historic issues in South Dakota. Where is that right now? Does anybody know? VJ?
Well, first of all, as I understand it, is that, and because we haven't seen exactly what it is yet, but as I understand it from early conversations, it's more inclined to South Dakota history than it is than for a history of the United States. And I think we would all agree that we ought to have a better understanding of the history of our state. And then the question always becomes, well, who's going to write it? Is there going to be some kind of political bent to it? And that's going to be up for conversation. But I got to tell you, some of the people that I have met that are going to be involved in the project, they're South Dakota State University graduates, and they have a fairly good view of the world and of the state. And so we need to see more of the details. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other comments on this history and civics funding and program? Representative Mills.
Yeah, thank you, Don. We had a presentation in appropriations from Tiffany Sanderson, who's the new Secretary of Education, and I found that pretty informative. She said there's a regular curriculum review that happens every 7 years. And this happens to be the year when they would do that for the civics education that's offered. And so the timing is perfect. The other thing she talked about was that it was going to be that people could apply, and that would be, I don't remember the size of the group, but a fairly large group that would provide input into this thinking. And then the third thing that I picked up on as I listened was that there are some curriculums out there already that this group can review and consider. And so it's not like we're starting from scratch and it's going to be one person's opinion. I think there's some good resources that are available. The timing is perfect, and there will be a lot of opportunity for input. And so I think that helps make me feel like it's be good to move forward with this. So thank you.
Last week, when we held the forum with the District 7 legislators only, we were pretty confident about a 2.4% funding increase for schools. Now people are saying 1.5%. What's your take on that in this coming couple weeks? Where do we start? Representative Reed?
Thank you, Don. I really will be pushing to stick with the 2.4. This happens to be a year that we have the funds to be able to do that. You always got to be worried about the future, because you got to get with that 2.4, you got to continue on into the future years with that amount plus inflation again. But I just think that we have an opportunity to try to catch up. So I'll be supporting 2.4. I've just heard a few legislators talk about that, but I haven't heard them in force talking about reducing it to 1.5.
Anyone else want to weigh in on this, or are we pretty solid on that 2.4? All in favor? Say aye. Hey, there you go. Thank you. I know it sounds like I'm going fast, but I do want to cover as much as we possibly can. And of course, the purpose of this forum really is to answer some of these questions, but then to encourage our viewers to call you on the phone or send you an email and state how they feel about it. So we'll surface as many of these issues as we can. The DECS, the Dakota Events Complex, Senate Bill 99, apparently passed. Is that right, senators? This builds this complex in Huron at the state fair after the fire this past summer. Senator Wiik?
I believe the bill is in joint appropriations right now. It moved through committee with a due pass recommendation and is parked in the Joint Committee on Appropriations, where we'll negotiate and balance the budget, make sure we get all of the projects that we want. But I really think that this is one of those out of the ashes stories that we'd all love to hear from VJ Smith, 5 or 10 years down the road, where there was this incredible building that was just old, but it served so many families in South Dakota for so many years. And then the tragedy struck, and there were some friends of mine who were loaded up and ready to go down and ride barrels the next morning, and were just crushed. We believe, or let me just say, my circle is heavily invested in 4-H and rural life. And for those who disparage the project, when you're looking at roughly $3 million worth of insurance claim, $4.5 million worth of private donations, and the ability to invest some one-time dollars that are unprecedented in volume right now in South Dakota towards something that is really going to build, like the governor always talks about, building up families. You won't find stronger families than are built by 4-H and our ag programs in South Dakota. When you get these kids together, it's just absolutely incredible. And I would love to see the Deck Center built.
Mm-hmm. Other comments about Representative Reed? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm hearing, I don't think you hear anybody that's not supportive of replacing that building with a better building. The only comment I've heard a little bit is that, you're out over your skis a little bit on it. So I'm sitting back waiting, but I know if you're ever in front of appropriations, they're going to make sure that it's a good investment. It's the right amount of the investment. So I think we just have to wait and see kind of as it works through appropriations, if that's the correct amount. But we have to replace the building, number one. It's to what extent?
Senator Smith, is this your next book? The ashes of the previous building being rebuilt and made better, and sounds like a good story.
Obviously, Senator Wiik has listened to a lot of my stories on the Senate floor, and they need something at the state fair, and oftentimes in South Dakota we underbuild. We just flat underbuild because resources are short. So here's an opportunity to do something that 40 years from now people will be proud of. And as Senator Wiik said, 4-H is a significant part of the fiber of South Dakota. And all those young people that have gone to the state fair, they've had incredible memories in the old building that is no longer there. And we have the opportunity to make new memories. And the other part about it too, let's just lay it out there. The city of Huron is going to benefit from this. Huron has had some tough moments. Geography isn't real kind to cities that don't have an interstate running through it. But when we were kids, we went to Huron because it was a big town and it was something different than Eureka, and so I just think it's an opportunity to do something for the future, and we need to take advantage of it. Thank you.
Representative Mills, I think, has a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Don. I too am supportive of rebuilding, and so that the 4-H folks and the people from around the state can do what they have always done and enjoy that benefit of the state fair. The challenge that I have is that the vision for the decks goes beyond just replacing the facility, and it goes to this level of contributing dollars to one community that in fact will add competition to our own Swift Health Center in Brookings, as well as facilities that are available in Rapid City and Sioux Falls. So for sure, those folks are going to lose something if we do this project. And so my challenge is this appropriate to invest state dollars in one of these facilities to the detriment of the other three? And so while I want to replace the facility, I am concerned about that additional step, which is unusual. And if we're going to do that, then are these other facilities, are they also going to be treated the same? Because they do compete. So just wanted to share that concern.
Very good. Yes, Representative Deutsch.
Thank you, Don. I'll just share that I think the state fair is an investment in the state. The DEX building is an investment in the state. And more than that, I think it kind of defines who we are as a people. I think we need that foundation. That's not to take away from the other facilities and other communities. We only have one state capital, and Pierre benefits from it. I think completing the DEX Center is important for us to gather around as a people and go forward. So I'm going to support it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to our next question in case. Okay, here we go. So Senate Bill 183 also generated a lot of questions from the people who are tuned in. It essentially adds a new section to a law that is about misrepresentation in advertising. And that new section, Section 2, is about abortion. In essence, it says that a contract is void if it coerces, compels, or attempts to compel a woman to undergo an abortion. Somebody sent in a question that says, if it were to pass, two agreeable parties that sign a contract for surrogacy, and that contract includes wording about termination in case of the carrier's life being at risk, or in the unfortunate event of a miscarriage, that person could be charged with a Class 5 felony. Where are we going here, and is this appropriate? Senator Wiik, maybe you can launch this off since it's a Senate bill.
Well, we heard two amendments to that bill. Excuse me. We heard two amendments to that bill on the floor of the Senate. The first one was Senator Schoenbeck's amendment, and what that does is it just, the way I read it, it just removes the abortion clause from the contract, saying that you cannot void the contract. Just the abortion part of it is voided, the way I understand it.
So if there was a miscarriage.
And then Senator Roll wants to take all punishment out of the bill the way it is. And we used a rule. It's in our book 517. It basically gives us 2 days to look over the amendments and figure out the right thing to do. So we're sitting there. That was done on Wednesday. So it would be 2 legislative days, Thursday, Monday intervening. So we'll hear it again on Tuesday, I believe. And basically, we're getting bombarded with emails from both sides, and then that's great. We love to hear from you, but we just have to sort through in our mind, if a human life is at stake, how far are we willing to go to protect that life, whether it's part of a contract or not? How far are you willing to go to protect that life? And that's kind of the goggles I have on, but I'm going to be reading and visiting again on Monday when I get back to the Capitol.
Senator Smith?
Yeah, Senator Wiik has done a good job of framing it. Basically what it's saying, I'm going to take my glasses off because I see the glare. What it's basically saying is that does someone have the ability to enter into a contractual arrangement and have an abortion clause that they could terminate a pregnancy because it's in the contract. And so the decision will be made by the Senate if that's part of it. And obviously the pro-life people have weighed in heavily. I haven't heard from this many priests in years. And so, they aren't asking me about my soul. They're, pushing a certain direction. But, that's basically what it is. It's just saying, hey, for whatever reason during the pregnancy, surrogacy pregnancy, if for whatever reason, whether the male decides to back or wants to back out of it, or for whatever reason, they could terminate the pregnancy. And so that's why the bill was brought forward, is to remove all that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to our next issue. Let's talk about the discretionary parole possibility. We touched on this last week with District 7. So this is Senate Bill 146, and it would give discretionary parole possibility to people who are serving a life prison sentence for crimes they committed when they were 25 years old or younger. And it would give them the option or possibility of parole when they're 50. It passed the Senate by 1 vote. Senator Wiik said yes. No, Senator Wiik said no. Senator Smith said yes. Now it's on to the House. Representatives, let's weigh in here, starting with District 4. How about Representative Wiik? Were you going to be in favor of discretionary parole?
I think you may have misspoke, Don.
I'm sorry. Wiik. Representative Mills, I meant. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I saw Representative Mills moving here.
So, this is one that I have not studied yet. And one of the first things that I would do in this situation is I would ask Senator Smith why he voted the way he did, and Senator Wiik why he voted the way he did. And that would start my understanding of the bill. So I'll sit back and maybe you will ask them that question.
Let's start with Representative Deutsch. Are you on board on this bill? And which one of the senators will you side with? Oh, that was a bad way to put it, I guess.
Well, so I've not heard the pros or cons of the bill either. I guess my question is why 25 and 50? Why not 30 and 55 or 35 and 65? Where does that number come from? Is it just a shot in the dark? And then my other thought is, why is 25 years the right amount? Why is the law there in the first place? Why does this do what it's intended to do? I just have a lot of questions. So it's hard for me to say yes or no at this point without me having those kind of questions answered.
Representative Tidemann, how are you leaning on this possibility of parole after 25 years of a life sentence?
Well, I think we discussed it last week as well, and I believe Senator Rush is the prime sponsor in the Senate. I respect him from where he's coming from as a judge or former judge, and that he brought forth some of the reasons why he would support it. Again, this crime could have occurred when the individual was 18, 19, 20. As Representative Deutsch said, what number are you going to pick? Well, I think you pick one that you feel comfortable with, that maybe as a 25-year-old to become more of an adult. But there could be a long time if they've met all of the requirements for probation. I guess I'd be supportive of it.
And Representative Reed.
Thank you, Don. I think the most important word there is discretionary. They're still going to have to go up in front of the parole board. And, if they've been a model prisoner, they look, maybe they got more education, some of the other things that they might have been doing. What it comes down to is when should that, you have that person in jail, could they be a productive citizen instead? And so when I spoke to, Senator Rush stopped by to talk to me about the bill, I can't remember if I signed on as a co-sponsor or not, but I think he was asking for that. That's what I heard from him. It's like, how can we get somebody being productive in society? So I'm leaning towards it, but of course we'll have to listen to all of the testimony.
Mm-hmm. I want to, any other comments on this before I change the subject? I want to get as many. Yes. BJ.
Thanks. If I could, Don. When Senator Rush was speaking on the floor, because Representative Deutsch asked a good question, why the age of 25? And what the good judge talked about was science has shown that a person's brains don't fully develop until around the age of 25. And so let's face it, we all did some pretty stupid stuff when we were 18, 19 years old, and not to the degree that we're talking about here. But the three R's, what society looks at in terms of jail time, prison time, whatever, are retribution, restitution, and rehabilitation. And if someone is rehabilitated, and I mean truly rehabilitated, and a parole board is made aware of that. And we know that parole boards sometimes make mistakes. I mean, we get the news stories, but I just figure someone in society that's shown to be a terrific person, society is better served by them being outside of prison rather than inside of prison. So that's the reason why I came down on how I did. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to talk about medical marijuana now because this question keeps resurfacing. I don't know, maybe some of the people who are asking questions are asking, what's going on here? I mean, almost 70% of the voters wanted medical marijuana. House Bill 1100 sends that into some kind of discussion when really, we're going to wait a year and we're going to do it right and all those things, except other states are doing it right. And it wouldn't be really very hard, the questioners say, to model after those states. We could do this by July 1st. The other thing that's come up this week was House Bill 1147, which essentially said you can't dispense medical marijuana through telehealth, even though I think it's 31 other states do allow that to happen. This was kind of a close vote in the House. House members, who wants to weigh in first on this? I'll start with Tim Reed, just because he's in the upper corner of my screen here. What are we doing here with the medical marijuana issue?
I'm going to place a call to Zoom and ask how come things get arranged on the screen a certain way. Okay, so I think this is a real important thing to spend just a little bit of time on this morning. Your first comment, I voted against the dispense, having it be able to be dispensed via telehealth. That was just more, we're learning so much. I was just a little uncomfortable. I asked a question on the floor, can you prescribe opioids through telemedicine? And there really wasn't an answer that couldn't be answered. And if it's on par with that, how they dispense medicine, then I may have voted for it, but I just wasn't quite comfortable. And it was a tight vote. I think there was just some people being uncomfortable with it. I think as we look at this issue, we have to go back to the initiative measure and just talk about a little bit, because it's really important. And I think everybody that I know approves of that process. We need it. I was put on my first interim session. I was put on a committee to study it and study the flaws of it, really. And the conclusion we came is, yep, it's dirty water, but that baby's pretty special. for South Dakota to be able to do this. And, you know, when we do bills within, you know, when we write bills and then we have to start shopping them around, you know, we have a discussion and the people will show up at our desk or will track us down that are against it. They'll say, here's where the problems are. Sometimes they're fixable. Sometimes you have to say, nope, I'm doing it anyway. But there's a process that goes on. And when it comes to something that's an initiative measure, that usually it doesn't happen as much. It can be a very one-sided issue. And with this one, it had 90 sections. And so while I think there was problems in it, I read it early before I voted. You know, this caregiver concept that's in it, that kind of caused me concern. I thought should be talked about more. That allows somebody to basically grow plants and, you know, give it to several different people. How are we going to control that? You know, questions there. You know, it can be allowed in dormitories. What kind of problems are there with that? And then allowing it in K through 12. You know, that's the last section in there. It says it can be in K through 12. And so I think there are a lot of questions we have to work through. Now, what I'll say about 1100, and it's coming up in the House probably on Monday, is I would still like to see a way, and I know that there's an amendment being talked about, that folks that need it, they can get a medical card over the next year. They can go across the border. You know, I think it's at least Colorado. I'm not sure what other states have it, and are able to get it for that year. I also think we need to tighten up those timelines. You know, COVID caused some issues with these departments and trying to get it up and running. It's just too hard in the legislature. You know, Representative Deutsch took a run at it and said, here's some fixes, but that's really, you know, really hard to do something that big in a short amount of time. A lot of times those are done in interim review. So I'd like to see us get that interim going right away after session and see a special session happen for us to talk about it. But I want to see those timelines tightened up.
Yeah, I'm going to cut to cross districts here to Representative Deutsch, because you did have a lot of compassionate comments about people who really need medical marijuana right now.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, this is a really big challenge. And I did spend a lot of time on the bill. I read it 4 times. I took more notes than the 40 pages of the original bill. And I'm very concerned about the people that want to have access to it. But on the other hand, there are, like Representative Reed said, there are a lot of challenges to it, a lot of unanswered questions. I similarly have concerns about K-12 and businesses and driving and safety issues, employer issues. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And you know, we heard testimony that the Department of Health, who's charged in the bill with implementing this program, they're spending about 85% of their time right now dealing with COVID. Mm-hmm. Well, who would have ever thought that we'd have a Department of Health having to spend that much time dealing with a pandemic when this bill was conceived, put on the ballot, and the voters went to vote on it? I mean, so we're dealing with a whole new thing, and we have to respect that. And, you know, to everybody that says we need it now, we're doing the best we can. And if you have other ideas, boy, please contact us, because, you know, we're trying to work this through in a reasonable manner that helps people, but that doesn't hurt people as well. I guess that's everything I can think of off the top of my head, Don.
Yeah. Representative Tidemann.
Thank you, Don. And I agree with what Representative Reed and Representative Deutsch have said. I think there's a couple things that people need to understand. Most states that implemented this took from 14 to 24 months to get it put in place. There's some real critical factors that have to go into place. And I think we support that the people voted for it. But you have to look at licensing. You have to look at local authorization. Is there going to be an opt-in or an opt-out? If we have the opt-out, we may not have enough sites across the state. Vertical integration, it's mandatory, or is it prohibitive? Maybe we look at the 3-tier system like we have with alcohol. Production management, how many dispensaries are we going to have in the state? What about testing? That you have to test for a number of different things: potency, microbials, contaminants, pesticides, taxation. Is it going to be taxed or not? Can it be taxed at the local level? And then just product approval. Is it going to be the flour, the edibles, or is it going to be consumables? I think there's a number of things that we have to look at. I would ask that we also tie into that nobody's going to be prosecuted if they're using medical marijuana. And we just have a sunset on that after it's implemented fully.
Representative Mills, where do you weigh in on the medical marijuana issue here that's floating around?
Well, thank you, Don. Well, the first thing I would say is one thing I've learned in the legislature is you get the best legislation if you have the folks who understand the subject matter the most directly involved. And so people like Representative Deutsch, who have a medical background, and like Representative Reed, who were on a summer study, and those are the folks that have really been pouring themselves into this issue. And it's a pretty large group, including some legal folks. And so I've been just kind of sitting back going, okay, you guys tell me when you got the substance put together, and then I will weigh in. Because it is coming to the House floor, I've started to think more about it. And while I clearly understand the need to do it right and that we want to do it right, I also feel like we should take a step or two that we know we could take now. And one of those that comes to my mind is decriminalization. And I think that was mentioned before, but we'll see where this goes. It's a work in process. I just encourage people to be patient, to recognize that we've got a lot of smart minds working on it. And I know that the process works if we let it, and their input. And I think what Representative Deutsch said is very true. If you got ideas, please share them, because that's what legislation is really about, is finding those ideas that will work. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe involve some of the nurses and practitioners who are involved in telehealth. This was not an indictment of telehealth, it sounds like, from your discussion, right?
Definitely. Yeah, no, it was, it really was just all around marijuana. Most telehealth bills are widely supported. And so I just think we were talking about 1100, in the background at the same time. I think that caused probably some people to be uncomfortable with it also.
I'm going to move to our senators now very quickly. On Senate Bill 57, state employee compensation and health insurance, I've tried to call it up here. It was just a question called in now. The viewer contends that if it passes, it'll result in a pay cut because most state employees are getting less than the increase in pay will not compensate for their health insurance benefits. What's going on with Senate Bill 57? Senator Wiik?
Well, thanks, Don. This was the first bill I spoke on the Senate floor this year. I have been very outspoken in the past that we need to provide our health insurance for our state employees. And every year when I was chair of appropriations, people came up to me and said, why the surprise bill at the end of the session? So we tasked the Bureau of Human Resources to go find a plan. I know Senator Steinhauer said we got to have some reinsurance of some sort. And there's so many people that rely on this system. We need to make sure it is solvent forever. So when you hear about, the $1 million cancer treatments and the $1 million stays in the NICU, it's very important that the state of South Dakota keep its commitments and we pay those hospital bills. I mean, that's a commitment we made and we will do it. So if we can find a system that is both more responsible to the taxpayers and fills the needs of our employees, it's just the right thing to do for the future. In the current changes recommended to the health plan, there are some gaps that I'm not comfortable with, but they have made an absolute rock solid commitment that there will be a free option for state employees to have their health insurance covered 100% as part of their compensation package. But at the same time, there are employees who wanted better than what we were offering. And this gives the opportunity. There was a state law on the books forever, and this is what Senate Bill 57 essentially revolves around, is there was a state law saying that state employees will not pay any premiums for their health insurance. This removes that and I think it's more of an allowable expense now. If you want to upgrade I know we used to call it the Cadillac insurance. When you're okay driving a Chevy, you're fine. But if you want the Cadillac, you can buy it. Well, this allows state employees, I believe the new package that's coming out is going to be a 4-tier system. And it always keeps the bottom tier absolutely no charge to the state employee as part of their compensation. I was comfortable with it. Was very uncomfortable when this bill was first introduced. I sat down and asked all the questions, and I think it's vetted it out to where I was very comfortable supporting it and passed the Senate pretty comfortably.
Senator Smith, are you comfortable with this bill?
Obviously not. If I was one of only 7 senators that voted against it.
I just love it when you two guys vote against each other. It makes a great discussion program.
Well, here's the situation. The reality is this. When I worked up at the university, when you are employed by an employer that provides a health package, you kind of take it for granted. You do, and you really don't know what you have, other than you're covered, and the bill comes in, and so you take it for granted. And sometimes I think that is the case. I wish when a state employee was hired, it would be in front of that person and says, "This is what the state will provide in terms of a monetary figure for your health insurance," which is a significant cost. So I get that. My concern on this particular bill was that whether it would turn things upside down. And you know who I worry about most? I'm not worried about an administrator, sitting in the administration building in terms of their compensation package and or a professor. That I'm worried about a clerical person and how that's going to impact that person's bottom line, because they don't get paid a lot of money, but if they have a catastrophic illness within their family, it's going to impact them a great deal. And I was not comfortable with this coming through. And so that's the reason why I voted against it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Boy, this hour has just flown by. I'm going to toss out a couple of bills. House Bill 1232 increases pay for certain constitutional officers. Other questions, House Bill 1248, pay for additional reporting for people who are going through in vitro fertilization. House Bill 1079, allowing for more dark money to be funneled to super PACs. Any one of those bills jump out at anybody? Just raise your hand and fire away. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Fred. Thank you.
Sure. I'll just speak quickly on the in vitro fertilization issue. So that's a bill that simply requires facilities to report the disposal of very early human beings. And it's a reporting bill. It doesn't do anything else. It's data that I think the state should follow, just like we follow any other issue pertaining to public health. And I don't know. I don't think it should be controversial. Unfortunately, it is. But that's my 2 cents. I support the bill.
Yeah, the person asking the question wonders who's going to pay for that additional reporting, since the cost of trying to go through the process of IVF is expensive to begin with. I guess that's kind of adding the cost on here.
Yeah, Don, we heard testimony that there is really no cost. This is just reporting. I mean, you fill out a form, and there is a whole bunch of data that is required to be reported to the CDC already. But this is one piece that's not required. And I think the state has a vested interest in knowing how many early embryos, human life, is disposed of or destroyed. But there is no cost.
Quick question for Representative Mills on your affordable housing bill that you brought up and has since kind of has failed, but it maybe has some legs in the future. You can bring that up again?
Yeah, I plan to. Thanks, Don, for asking that. I thought it was a unique idea, and sometimes unique ideas meet with a lot of resistance because they haven't been discussed. And so I think, I just didn't get far enough in the discussion process with the groups that would be the most impacted by it. So there was uncertainty. And I think that was mostly the pushback against the bill. I allowed it to be tabled so that those discussions could happen. And I think those will take place over the coming year. To me, it was just a really simple way to do what the state could do across the state without adding a program, without adding any more government employees, just simply using a tax that we already assess and taking it off of that affordable housing sector. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's more support for that idea than was initially demonstrated, I guess, when the bill was heard. And so I intend to keep that dialogue going, and you'll likely see it again next year.
Very good. Thank you. Well, in the few minutes that we have left, let's give everybody 1 minute to talk about two things, I guess. What's the biggest pressing issue you have going forward, and what's been your biggest accomplishment so far? You could talk about both of those, or you could just answer one of them. What's your biggest accomplishment so far? What's the biggest pressing issue going forward? And let's start with our senators, VJ Smith.
Well, my biggest accomplishment so far is staying healthy. Because it isn't easy in the petri dish called the state capitol. And so just trying to stay healthy. You know, in the beginning, Don, you asked about the question, one word, which Representative Deutsch turned into a hyphenated two word, but technically, I suppose it's one word. You know, I said frenzy, and you know, and it goes back to the marijuana, the medical marijuana. You know, there are 508 bills and resolutions that have been presented to us. We as legislators were sworn in a little over a month ago. Measure 26 was 26 pages long, which ought to be a pretty telling sign that there's a lot to this. And in the meantime, you have all these bills that you have to take care of. And on top of it, and this is what I want to say about the frenzy. If you go to a fish hatchery and you stick a quarter in that little vending machine and you turn it, you get all these pellets. And you take those pellets and you throw them out into the water, and all of a sudden you have all these fish, these fish fighting for these pellets. And that's what we got going on in terms of the CARES Act funding with all of these projects. We have a frenzy, people trying to state their case as to why. And you know what? We have to work through all of that, and it's an enormous thing because there are a lot of great projects out there, but everybody thinks they have a great project, you know. And so people state their case, and you have to take the time to listen to the case because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for a legislature to do this. And so that's what I'm going to end with. Here's an opportunity. We just have to do it right. And you can't do it quick. Thank you.
Doing the best with the additional revenue that we've had in this past year. You know, why do I picture a bunch of fish now swimming around in the Capitol in a frenzy thing like that? I don't know. Senator Wiik, your thoughts?
Well, thanks, Don. I think the biggest challenge feeds directly into the frenzy argument from Senator Smith. Is there are $200 million of one-time money and roughly $800 million worth of requests right now. When you take a look at all in. To sit through all of those in the Appropriations Committee, I know Representative Mills' first year in that committee is definitely probably the biggest learning curve he's ever experienced in his life. And sitting there going through this it's really history making right now, just trying to figure out how to get through all this. You add that the marijuana, the regular bills that we also bring. It is a very busy time, but we all signed up for this, and we're going to get through it, and we're going to find a way to make it work. And at the end of our constitutionally mandated 40 days, the budget will balance, and we'll all go home, and the wounds will heal, and we'll work together again next year. But there's a lot of accomplishments we can all say that we've done. As we were, as of last Thursday, the only legislature functioning 100% normally, if you can call it, this year. And I think that is the biggest thing that we can take away from this, is we are on schedule and on task, and we're finding ways through technology to make it work. So we're going to deliver a product. I think it's going to be a good year for South Dakota because we have some great people working on it. And hopefully you can just keep letting us know what's going on, keep pounding the emails through, and we'll do our best to get back to you. And thank you very much for the time this morning. We appreciate it, Tom. Thank you.
Representative Mills, take a minute and tell us what you've accomplished and what you're moving forward with.
Well, thank you, Don. I am in the middle of a pretty big learning curve in the Appropriations Committee. Oftentimes amazed at how large our government is, all the programs and dollars. I think the money issue that Senator Wiik alluded to will be our biggest issue going forward, trying to figure out who gets a piece of the pie and who has to wait. I wanted to talk just a minute about, for me, a pressing issue. I've got a bill that will be heard in committee on Tuesday. Every year since I've been in the legislature, I brought a bill to try to wean the state from its addiction to video lottery. I think it's a highly destructive thing in our state. I know it is. The more I learn about it, the more I'm convinced we need to get rid of it. Any place that gambling exists at the level it does here in South Dakota, we've got increases in drugs, crime, and suicide. And so the current bill I have this year is House Bill 1201, and it really is just a local control bill. The idea is that all of us should have some ability to determine what kind of a community do we want to live in. Now, for me, I work hard to try to buy my gasoline where there is not video lottery, because I know if there's going to be a robbery, it's going to most likely going to happen there. I would really like to. I can no longer buy gasoline in Volga because that option no longer exists. So I would really like to have the opportunity for communities that feel like I do to have a chance to bring it to a local vote. And that's all the bill does, is allow the local citizens to have a local vote, determine if they want it in their town or not. So anyway, I'll be working on that, and I appreciate a minute or two maybe to share those thoughts. Thank you, Donna.
Representative Deutsch, time to wrap it up.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, so I'm most proud of the bills that I've been able to get through. I think that's been the greatest accomplishment. I brought three bills, 1055, 1057, and 1066. All of them passed with unanimous support out of the House. They'll come before Senate committee on Tuesday. One of them is wind tower tax flexibility that Senator Wiik will be carrying forward over there. Also, I should mention House Bill 1051, which is the Born Alive bill. That passed through both the House and the Senate and is waiting a signature by the governor. That's probably my biggest praise God bill. It faced an uncertain course and it sailed through, and I'm hopeful we'll do some practical good after it gets signed.
Very good. Okay, let's run over to District 7, Representative Tidemann.
Well, thank you, Don. I think the greatest contribution I probably have given this year is my corporate memory. After 14 years of serving, being able to look out and say, well, we've seen that before, we've looked at that before, and it probably doesn't fly today. I think one of the things that we have to look at with the feeding frenzy is what can we do with that money to make the greatest impact, not just today and tomorrow, but 10 and 20 years down the road. Not who gets the money, but what is the project that's going to be the greatest return for the citizens of South Dakota, the youth, as well as the elderly population. I think that's one of the things we have to look at, generalize that, use that as the guide as we go forward. I think that there are some bills that are just not ready for prime time, and my corporate memory has helped in analyzing that and getting that done. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Reed, can you close this out for us?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think success-wise, worked all summer on a bill that helps define the elements of rape to help those sexual assault victims find justice. And that actually, it's heading over to the Senate side, but it also went on consent. And so that shows what happens if you put a good bill together. It was a complicated, long bill. Usually bills like that don't end up on consent. But when you work on it through the whole summer, it can involve the right people, you can get it done. The challenge is working really hard on peer support services. Something I've been working on 2 years to help for access to mental health care. It's an ongoing program. So it starts out with a certain amount of money, and then it's going to grow over time and then level out. And those always are highly scrutinized. And so I really hope that I can get that one done this year.
Very good. I'd like to take a quick opportunity to thank our legislators and also thank our participants for sending in questions and being part of your legislative process. And I'll turn it back to Kelsey now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I parked myself on my rug to sort my socks, and I didn't get any sorting done. It was great. Thank you for such engaging conversation and education. So again, I want to thank our sponsors, CrossFit, Brookings, Willard Chiropractic, and Brookings Economic Development Corporation. And to these gentlemen on this screen, they worked so hard through this session, going on very little sleep through the entire thing. So we appreciate you very, very much. The Chamber of Commerce is here if you guys need anything. And thank you to our viewers for helping us out, getting us some questions and things like that. Just one quick announcement that the Chamber will be hosting some forums, some candidate forums for our school board, mayor, and city council. So keep an eye on our Facebook page to be in on that conversation. And that's all I've got for you. So everybody have an awesome weekend. Go enjoy the really warm 32 degree weather today, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.